The Geet Ruler Episode Number 111 Explanation. Just as they have stepped on the central region, Mu Chen and his group had received yet another piece of information. Within these 2 days, the Academy Alliance had still only continued to keep Wen Qingxian and the others trapped, while not launching any offensive against them. However, this time, the Academy Alliance had openly sent a letter of challenge. It was exactly this piece of information that was sent right towards Mu Chen and his group. Mu Chen. Xiao Huang, I'm waiting for you to break the array to save those people. It was just this short sentence that the Academy Alliance had sent out. However, it had brought about extremely huge waves of commotion within the central region, while causing some doubts and suspicion to surface in many powerful groups. After all, the group that was led by Xiao Huang had already reached the 9th place on the rankings. Furthermore, they had Wen Qingxian trapped. Therefore, it had made him absolutely well-renowned within the entire Great Spiritual Academy tournament. As for Mu Chen, the majority of the people were unfamiliar to this foreign-sounding name. After all, Mu Chen had only stepped into the top 16 for a bit of time before disappearing. Up till now, he had yet to step back into the top 16. Therefore, many people were extremely unfamiliar in regards to him. However, despite their unfamiliarity, a person that could cause the great leader of the Academy Alliance to send a challenge would definitely not be any ordinary person. This point had indeed attracted the interest of people from various groups. Therefore, numerous groups started to rapidly head towards the region indicated by the challenge. While this was happening, Mu Chen had also received this letter of challenge that was brimming with provocation. Faced against it, a faint smile appeared on his face. Yet, without saying anything more, he gave a wave of his hand, while a calm voice followed suit and rang out. Let's go. We'll break the array and save them. Heart of the Shattered Continent, Northwest Region. Present here was a stretch of luscious green mountain ranges, with high ridges and peaks that overflowed with greenish life. Generally speaking, such a place would normally appear exceedingly remote and quiet. However, at this moment, this place appeared exceedingly noisy and was filled with clamoring noises, while whooshing sounds continuously rang throughout the surrounding mountain ridges. Finally, glowing figures shot over, appearing in the sky or the sea of trees present below. Therefore, this place, which was already noisy, became even more lively. The powerful groups that came from various directions stood in the distant sky. Yet, their gazes had all focused on the centermost position of the mountain range without any prior consultation. Presently, there was an extremely majestic mountain peak that towered over the region. However, at this moment, bright and resplendent spiritual light had perfused over the top of the mountain peak. This spiritual light appeared exceedingly dazzlingly, appearing just like the rise of the scorching sun, causing piercing pain in the eyes of the people looking at it. Therefore, the faces of the groups looking over were filled with solemnness. That's because they could clearly sense how terrifying the spiritual energies radiating from that mountain peak were. The Multi-Academy Alliance's Xiao Huang's truly formidable to actually be able to arrange such a powerful spiritual array. With such spiritual energy fluctuations, even an expert on the realm of the first level of spirit disaster would not dare to rush into it. Upon spotting the spiritual light perfusing from the mountain peak, the various groups present could not help whispering to each other. If the spiritual array is not strong, how would it be that easy for that Xiao Huang to trap Wen Qingxian, said some people in a deep voice. However, the guts of that Xiao Huang's truly big to actually dare to take such action against Wen Qingxian in such a manner. I'm afraid that Wen Qingxian and her people might be in some trouble this time. HMPH. This Xiao Huang had used a really despicable method and captured the groups of the Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy, before using them as bait to lure Wen Qingxian into an already prearranged spiritual array. Only by doing so was he able to trap her. If not, if she was to truly take action, that Xiao Huang would definitely not be a match for her. Some people snorted in disdain. After all, with her fame and reputation being so big, coupled by her absolutely stunning appearance, these traits were more than enough to attract the adoration and admiration of many people. Although there were many people that knew that this arrogant and haughty phoenix would not cast a gentle and beautiful gaze over to them, all of them already had some indignant feelings upon seeing Xiao Huang use such a method to deal with Wen Qingxian. This person's words had attracted some approval. All of them knew that, although the spiritual array that Xiao Huang had arranged was indeed exceedingly formidable, wanting to completely trap Wen Qingxian was an extremely difficult thing to do. Therefore, although Wen Qingxian had been trapped for the past few days, this was all completely due to her worry for the safety of her group members. After all, faced with such a formidable spiritual array, only she might have the ability and capability to contend against it. The only rule of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament is survival of the fittest. What methods or ways used doesn't matter. As long as you can defeat your opponent, who can care about what method or way you use? All of that is just the excuses of the losers. There were also some people with different opinions who voiced their opposition. Therefore, it had also attracted the sneers of people. With the sounds of dispute rising and falling in succession, the entire region was filled with noisy sounds. Present on the top of a mountain peak not far away were a few standing figures, with their gazes locked on the mountain peak radiating with dazzling spiritual light. That Xiao Huang's truly despicable. Wearing a scarlet red dress, a mocking expression filled Wu Ying's lovable face. Although she didn't have too much of a connection with Wen Qingxian, they were girls, after all. As of now, seeing that the Multi-Academy Alliance was trying their best to deal with Wen Qingxian, her heart was naturally biased towards the latter. Ha ha. That person, Xiao Huang, isn't some benevolent person, said a figure standing before Wu Ying. This figure appeared tall and thin, with a straight-like appearance, just like an erect spear. The black robe worn by him appeared exceedingly delicate, just like a girl. His facial features appeared slightly similar to Wu Ying, causing him to have a slightly effeminate appearance. However, everyone from the Martial Spiritual Academy was extremely clear exactly how frightening of a talent this fellow that appeared like a girl possessed. He similarly possessed the status of a freshman in the Martial Spiritual Academy. However, within the short span of a year, he had already stood at the highest peak in the Martial Spiritual Academy. Those seniors who possessed splendid talent could only give long sighs of despair in the presence of that figure. He was Wu Ling. As of now, he was the strongest person amongst the members of the Martial Spiritual Academy. At the same time, he was the elder brother of Wu Ying. Wen Qingxian isn't that easy to deal with. If not for her worrying for the other members of the Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy, regardless of how prepared Xiao Huang is, he would not be able to trap her, said Wu Ying with a cold snort. Hearing that, Wu Ling gave a faint smile, since he knew that what Wu Ying said was indeed right. Wen Qingxian wasn't any ordinary girl. Even he had high amounts of dread towards that girl. Speaking of which, Wen Qingxian would absolutely be considered as an opponent that he would need to focus all of his mind and spirit on. If Xiao Huang wanted to truly take head-on action against Wen Qingxian, Wu Ling knew that Wen Qingxian would absolutely possess a great chance of victory. However, other than the frightening aspect of him being a spiritual array master, once he was able to execute the method that he had meticulously prepared, he would be able to have absolute control over everything, just like the current situation. With Wen Qingxian and her other members being trapped within the spiritual array and with it being completely activated, even Wen Qingxian could only end up in a disadvantage, and be forced in a clearly passive position. Therefore, it was still truly hard to say exactly who among Xiao Huang or Wen Qingxian would obtain victory in this time's fight. Furthermore, the target of Xiao Huang isn't only Wen Qingxian. He just wants to use her to lure Mu Chen out, that's all, said Wu Ling with a faint smile, his gaze appearing somewhat peculiar. Mu Chen should have been his target all along. This name wasn't unfamiliar or foreign to him, as he had crossed hands with Mu Chen while both of them were in the spiritual road, with both of them obtaining their respective victories. He was exceedingly interested in this former opponent of his. However, with the occurrence of the matter of Mu Chen being expelled from the spiritual road, this had always caused him to feel some regret. However, it was fortunate that he was finally able to hear this name again. Why would he want to deal with Mu Chen specifically? That fellow doesn't have much points, and there isn't any benefit in defeating him at all, asked Wu Ying as her forehead started to wrinkle. Who knows? Perhaps Xiao Huang had set his sights on something that Mu Chen possesses, said Wu Ling with a faint smile. From the looks of it, it seems that Xiao Huang had made thorough preparations. The might of this spiritual array is astonishing. Furthermore, it appears abstruse and profound. If that fellow Mu Chen truly dares to come, I'm afraid that he won't be able to get much of an advantage, said Wu Yingying, her voice containing a sliver of worry that was hard to conceal. Ha ha. Don't you hate him to death? Why are you worried about his safety? Wu Ling shot a strange look at Wu Yingying as a smile appeared on his face. Who cares about him? I can't wait for him to be beaten to death, snapped Wu Yingying back, her eyes wide open while her lovable face turned beet red. Wu Ling helplessly shrugged as he looked at his surroundings. There were hundreds to thousands of figures around them. Clearly, they were all attracted to this location. The matter had already spread throughout this vast central region as almost everyone knew that Xiao Huang had trapped Wen Qingxian to lure Mu Chen. However, under such circumstances, there was no one that interfered with the entire situation. Regardless of Xiao Huang or Wen Qingxian, and even Mu Chen, who had yet to appear, there were many people that were clear about how formidable they were. Therefore, they have great anticipation of the confrontation that would occur. After all, only in this kind of situation would they be able to obtain a chance to gain some benefit. In such a situation, God knows how many heavyweight groups were out there paying attention to the matters happening over here. Regardless of whether Mu Chen would appear or not, or that when Qingxian would break out from the array, it would clearly lead to an extremely spectacular confrontation. Next up, we have to wait for the appearance of the main character, her. As spiritual light radiated from the majestic mountain peak and into the eyes of everyone around, they could faintly discern incomparably complicated glowing patterns starting to surface from within. These glowing patterns appeared to be carved out of nothing, giving people an insubstantial feeling. This mountain peak was approximately 1,000 meters in diameter. However, as of now, this was within the radius of the spiritual light's reach. This region had already been included in the radius of the spiritual array. Therefore, there was simply no one that dared to come close to it. At this moment, there were two figures sitting quietly on a green stone within a certain location of the spiritual array. Behind them stood Mo Yu, Qin Feng, and Liu Xiong, the three leaders of the Multi-Academy Alliance, with their faces brimming with nervousness and worship. Great leader, will that Mu Chen really come? He should already know that this place has already become a dangerous location for him, asked Mo Yu in a quiet voice. Present before him was a youth with long black hair that possessed an exceedingly ordinary appearance. However, his pair of eyes appeared to be like a deep chasm, causing people to be simply unable to see their depth. Hearing Mo Yu's question, he faintly raised his eyes. Before replying, the news has already been circulated. Even when Qingxian knows about it. She's a person that pursues perfection, even if it is towards her friends. If Mu Chen doesn't come, she would understand, yet this would result in some ill feelings being born within her heart. This would prohibit her friendship with Mu Chen from here on. This would result in the impossibility for her to collaborate with him in the future. If Mu Chen comes over, that's precisely what I want. I've set my sights on the thing from the hidden spiritual courtyard, and he should hand it over. If not, I won't mind letting him know that not even the people from the 5 great academies possess the qualifications to be bossy and domineering in this place. Therefore, I'm able to obtain a harvest, regardless of whether Mu Chen comes or not. Hearing his reply, shadows of worship and respect instantly gushed from the eyes of Mo Yu and the other two, before excitement appeared on their faces. They were already unable to contain their impatience to see the expression Mu Chen would have when he was defeated. That bastard has actually forced them to return empty-handed from the remnant of the Divine Wood Palace and even sent them fleeing away like dogs with tails between their legs. Now, the only thing we need to do is wait. Speaking with a faint smile, Xiao Huang proceeded to slowly close his eyes. However, not long after shutting his eyes, a tremble suddenly shook through his eyebrows, before his eyes rapidly sprung open. Looking with indifference towards the distance, an arc started to curl from the corner of his mouth, one that brought about a sliver of chilling intent. You actually came so quickly. Truly befitting of the boldness of an able person. The originally clamoring atmosphere around the verdant mountain range suddenly turned silent, before all of the gazes shooting from everywhere turned towards the northwest direction. A moment later, hurried whooshing sounds rang from there as numerous glowing figures surfaced across the horizon. Finally, in a flash, they appeared right before the figure-filled mountain range. As the glowing shadows scattered away, 5 figures surfaced before everyone. Present at the helm was a person, which was precisely Mu Chen. Standing by his side was Luo Li. Her slender and elegant figure, with her absolutely beautiful appearance, instantly attracted quite a few gazes shooting her way. Looking at the academy insignia on their chests, everyone instantly understood the status of these 5 people, instantly causing fervent shadows to appear in their eyes. After waiting for so many days, this main character had finally appeared. This is the group from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. That's their captain, Mu Chen? Why is his strength only at the realm of spiritual energy disaster? He actually dared to come and keep an appointment with such strength. He truly possesses quite the amount of courage. Don't look down on him. This Mu Chen is not one bit simple at all. It's said that in the remnant of the Divine Wood Palace, he had caused the Academy Alliance to return empty-handed. Furthermore, he is a spiritual array master with quite a bit of attainments in this aspect. Oh? He's also a spiritual array master? This truly has become interesting. It's extremely rare to see a battle between spiritual array masters. Ha. Who knows, maybe this Mu Chen will actually be able to break the array formation that Xiao Huang has arranged, huh? When Mu Chen and his group appeared in that stretch of the sky, low whispers instantly rang about from the surroundings, while gazes continuously swept across their bodies. Standing in the air, Mu Chen's gaze was similarly scanning his surroundings. Looking at the hundreds and thousands of groups present around, he could not help but to let a sliver of astonishment flash across his eyes. That's because the groups present here all possessed rather powerful strength. Clearly, being able to remain in the central region, where the most intense and cruel battles of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament was taking place, how would any of these groups be weak? Suddenly, Mu Chen's gaze froze as he fixed his eyes on a mountain peak in the far distance. Over there, he spotted a youth in black robes with a delicate, female-like appearance. Wu Ling. Mu Chen's eyes faintly narrowed as his expression turned slightly solemn. During the spiritual road, there weren't many people that could cause him to feel extreme fear and dread for. Other than Ji Xian and Wen Qingxian, he might just have the most fear towards this Wu Ling. Fortunately, though, Mu Chen didn't have too much grudges and grievances towards Wu Ling while in the spiritual road, and could be considered as having an ordinary relationship. Mu Chen's incoming gaze was clearly sensed by Wu Ling. A faint smile instantly surfaced on his delicate face as he sent a nod towards Mu Chen that could be considered as a greeting. Nodding his head in response, Mu Chen retracted his gaze before turning towards the most crowded location of this region. Bright and resplendent spiritual light radiated from the mountain peak, causing piercing pain in the eyes of people who looked into it. Looking over, Mu Chen's expression started to coagulate. Perhaps others might be unable to understand those complicated glowing patterns that were radiating from within the spiritual light, but being a spiritual array master, he was able to clearly sense how complicated and formidable that spiritual array was. Quite a formidable spiritual array, said Luo Li in a soft voice. Although she wasn't a spiritual array master, it did not mean that she wasn't able to feel dangerous fluctuations coming from the gigantic spiritual array before her eyes. Nodding his head, Mu Chen added, that should be a rank 5 combination diagram. Furthermore, it seems to be somewhat different in layout as compared with ordinary spiritual array formations. The lesser thousand-sword spiritual array that Mu Chen had used to deal with Shui Qiando, Wang Zhong and their people while in the remnant of the Divine Wood Palace was also a rank 5 combination diagram. Relying on this array, Mu Chen was able to directly destroy 3 Divine Wood Guards, and even completely defeated Shui Qiando and his entire gang. From this, one could see exactly how astonishing the might of such a combination diagram was. Naturally, this was also within the expectations of Mu Chen. After all, ordinary spiritual arrays did not possess the strength needed to trap Wen Qingxian. Ha. Mu Chen, you've finally arrived. While Mu Chen was casting his gaze over towards that bright and resplendent spiritual array, a faint laughing voice rang from within. In the next instant, with a sparkle, an empty space started to surface from within the spiritual array. One could immediately see numerous figures clearly present within. Furthermore, the one who had spoken was precisely the youth with long free-flowing black hair. You must be the great leader of the Academy Alliance, Xiao Huang, right? Shooting a look at Mo Yu standing behind the youth, Mu Chen turned his gaze over to the latter before speaking in a slow manner. Nodding his head, Xiao Huang gave a faint smile before saying, "I've long heard of the great name of Captain Mu Chen. I've been looking forward to meeting you here for a very long time." "What a true honor," Mu Chen replied with a smile. Staring at Xiao Huang, before shooting a look at the gazes coming from their surroundings that were trained on themselves, Mu Chen continued speaking, "I don't know exactly what Captain Xiao Huang plans to do by luring me to here. Could it be that you want to vie for the face of Mo Yu and the other two?" Upon hearing his words, the faces of Mo Yu and the other two instantly turned ashen as they shot furious glares at Mu Chen. "Ha ha! You must be joking, Captain Mu Chen. Being taught a lesson by you meant that their skills aren't comparable to you." "It isn't anyone else's fault," replied Xiao Huang with a smile. "Nevertheless, there's an item from within the remnant of the Divine Wood Palace that I need, but has been snatched away by Captain Mu Chen. Therefore, would Captain Mu Chen be willing to part with it?" "What thing?" asked Mu Chen calmly. "It's naturally what you've obtained from within the hidden spiritual courtyard," replied Xiao Huang with a smile. Mu Chen's eyes instantly slightly narrowed, with a shadow of astonishment surfacing within their depths. What he had obtained within the hidden spiritual courtyard was a counterfeit, spiritual condensing bowl. What a valuable treasure this was, with numerous sovereign spiritual liquids being sealed within. However, the news about him obtaining it was only known to him, Luo Li and Wen Qingxian. How did Xiao Huang know about this? "May I know what Captain Mu Chen makes about my request?" asked Xiao Huang as he looked towards Mu Chen, with his gaze appearing similarly calm. However, deep within his eyes gushed a fierceness that was akin to the edge of a blade. Clearly, that was his true nature, not the gentle and warm appearance he was showing on the outside. Mu Chen turned his gaze similarly towards Xiao Huang, the expression flowing within the latter being picked up by him. He could never relax in the face of this outward courtesy shown by Xiao Huang. Being able to establish the Academy alliance and completely submit Mo Yu and the other fellows to obedience, such a person would not be a person that would give in to anyone. Naturally, Mu Chen had similarly not believed that he, himself, was a person that would give in to anyone, too. Therefore, faced against Xiao Huang's question, Mu Chen gave a faint smile and replied, "I might have to make Captain Xiao Huang disappointed about this. I believe that it's better for you to quickly scatter this spiritual array away. If not, if the person within was to truly become angry, I believe you most likely wouldn't be able to endure it." Upon hearing this reply from Mu Chen, quite a few people started secretly smiling. Clearly, Xiao Huang had put down an extremely amount of thought in trapping Wen Qingxian. However, once this spiritual array gets broken, the fury of Wen Qingxian might cause Xiao Huang to be in an extremely miserable state. "Looks like you're not willing to settle this peacefully." Xiao Huang appeared to be somewhat regretfully as he gave a sigh, while his eyes brimmed with coldness. With a faint smile on his face, Mu Chen gave a shrug in return. However, anyone could tell how cold his smile similarly was. "Since you don't accept my peaceful offer, I can only beat you all down and take it back myself." Suddenly, a faint sneer rang out, causing everyone's gaze to converge, before finally resting on the side of Xiao Huang. Present there was another figure in a sitting position. This figure possessed short hair, with an appearance that had a slight bit of semblance to Xiao Huang, with the only difference being in the exceedingly chilly lines present on his face. This person had remained quiet the whole time, while sitting beside Xiao Huang, resulting in him not receiving too much attention from others. However, upon him opening his mouth, everyone could feel the knife-like chilliness radiating from his eyes, causing their hearts to feel chilly. So it turns out that this fellow also wasn't any ordinary character. That fellow seems to be the brother of Xiao Huang, Xiao Wang. This person is powerful. Although he doesn't understand spiritual arrays, even an expert of the first-grade spirit disaster has fallen under his hands a while ago. He can't be underestimated. Upon noticing the figure, the groups present in the surroundings started to quietly whisper to one another. Hearing those whispers, Mu Chen shot a look towards Xiao Huang, while his expression turned to one of indifference. "I'm afraid that you don't possess the qualifications to say such words." A clear and chilly voice rang out at this moment, only for the beautiful eyes of Luo Li to coldly glare at Xiao Huang. As her jade-like hand slowly clenched her Luo god sword tightly, she took gracefully steps forward, with a sword ring instantly rushing into the sky. This incomparably fierce sword intent appeared to want to shatter and split the heavens and earth apart, causing the faces of the countless groups present in the surroundings to violently contort. At this moment, the expressions Xiao Huang and Xiao Wang had also faintly changed, as they were able to sense the slivers of danger present in the sword intent that had radiated from Luo Li. The girl before them seemed to be even more difficult to deal with than Mu Chen himself. From the looks of it, this group from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy had indeed possessed some ability. Slightly narrowing his eyes, Xiao Huang gave a laugh before saying, "Captain Mu Chen, I've heard that you're also a spiritual array master. Would you be interested in making a bet with me? Let me hear about it." It's inevitable that a normal battle would be somewhat crude and boorish. As of now, with Wen Qingxian and her fellow students being trapped within the heaven-binding spiritual array, as long as you're able to break this array, it would be considered as your win. At that time, not only would I release Wen Qingxian and the others, I'll even give you 20,000 points, replied Xiao Huang as he stared at Mu Chen, the smile at the corner of his mouth appearing to contain a somewhat amused shade. Naturally, if you were to lose, please hand that item over to me. So? Do you dare to accept this bet? Hearing Xiao Huang's words, the eyebrows of quite a few groups were raised. Xiao Huang's really playing his scheme out well. From the looks of it, with this spiritual array being able to trap even Wen Qingxian, if Mu Chen was to rush inside, won't it end up in the same result as her? Once Mu Chen had fallen into the array, wouldn't anything that Xiao Huang say become the law? However, being able to take out 20,000 points just like that can indeed be considered as exceedingly generous. After all, as of now, 20,000 points was more than sufficient to allow for one to rush into the top 8. Naturally though, that might also be all of the points that the Academy Alliance possessed. All of the gazes in this region had now been cast on Mu Chen's figure. All of them really wanted to know exactly if Mu Chen dared to take up this bet that was raised by Xiao Huang. Under the attentive gazes of everyone present, Mu Chen slightly pursed his lips before a smile surfaced on his handsome face. Looking at Xiao Huang with a similarly amused manner, he slowly nodded his head in the end. "All right. I accept this bet." When Mu Chen's voice slowly rang within the region, it had expectedly filled the faces of quite a few people with shock. A few differing gazes locked on the slender figure of the youth. Only after quite a while did people start to secretly purse their lips as they muttered about the good show that they would truly be able to see today. The groups that were able to be present here have all experienced many challenges and battles, and thus naturally possessed some schemes and plans of their own. From the looks of it, Xiao Huang had proclaimed about the traps that he had laid here, and was wanting to force Mu Chen into them. As long as the latter wasn't an idiot, he should be extremely clearly about this. However, despite that, Mu Chen seemed to not give much hesitation before accepting the bet. There was likely 2 reasons that would lead him to do such a thing. One was that Mu Chen's ego was so big that it had caused him to seemingly turn stupid, or that Mu Chen had similarly possessed some trump cards of his own. One can very well eliminate the first reason. Being able to become the captain of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy meant that Mu Chen would absolutely not be an arrogant or haughty person. The upper echelons of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy should not be stupid to the level of handing the position of captain to Mu Chen if he was such a person. Therefore, the biggest reason why Mu Chen might dare to accept the bet would be that he wasn't afraid of Xiao Huang. From the looks of it, this youth, whose cultivation was merely at the realm of spiritual energy disaster, seemed to be not as simple as he appeared to be. That stupid idiot. On the mountain peak in the distance, upon seeing that Mu Chen had actually chosen to accept the bet, Wu Yingying could not help clenching her teeth and curse out. Although she can be considered to have some level of understanding towards Mu Chen, from the looks of the current situation, as long as he entered that spiritual array, he might fall straight into the hands of Xiao Huang. After all, it was able to trap even Wen Qingxian within. How much more would Mu Chen be able to accomplish? There's no need to worry at such an early time of their bet, said Wu Ling with a faint smile. Looking at the thin figure of the youth in the distance, he continued speaking. Having crossed hands with him, I've a good understanding about Mu Chen. Regardless of what he wants to do, as long as he takes action, that would mean that he has some sort of plan within his heart. Although Xiao Huang had made an all-round preparation for this, wanting to devour Mu Chen might not be as easy as he think it would be. "Is that formidable?" said Wu Yingying while pouting her lips. She knew how astute her brother's eyesight was. Amongst their generation, there were truthfully not many that could be marked by him. In fact, he did not even see highly of those geniuses that the few elders of their martial spiritual academy have unending praise for. Ha ha. In actual fact, you should be extremely clear as to how Mu Chen's exactly like. The only thing is that you're not willing to accept it, replied Wu Ling with a smile. Shooting a look at Wu Yingying, his eyes faintly narrowed before asking, however, "Why do you have so big of a resentment against him? Did he do something to you?" Hearing her brother's question, Wu Yingying's lovable face instantly turned red before muttering in an unconfident manner, "Don't say such stuff without having the proper understanding about the situation, okay?" Hearing her reply, Wu Ling shrugged his shoulders while saying, "Although I hold that fellow in high regard, if he dares to bully my younger sister, you just have to tell me and I'll make sure to tidy him up." "Who needs your help, HMPH?" snapped Wu Yingying as she shot a glare at Wu Ling, before proceeding to shut her mouth. Staring at the thin figure in the far distance, she faintly clenched her teeth while thinking, "That pervert." While the Wu siblings were having their own private conversation, on the mountain peak that was radiating with spiritual light, upon hearing Mu Chen's agreement for the bet, a faint smile instantly surfaced on the face of Xiao Huang. With a grin, he spoke with a sigh of admiration. "Captain Mu Chen is truly bold and courageous. I, Xiao Huang, admire you." Shooting a look at him, Mu Chen gave a faint laugh before replying, "Since Captain Xiao Huang's intending to send me such a large present, how could I not accept it?" "That would have to depend on your ability, Captain Mu Chen," replied Xiao Huang with a smile. "You might not able to break this spiritual array just by using your mouth." Although the words coming from the two contained some friendly banter, one could clearly sense the extreme intent of confrontation present within. Gently nodding his head, Mu Chen panned his head to shoot a look at Luo Li. Seeing this, the latter slightly nodded her head towards him while saying, "Be careful." Giving a smile, Mu Chen didn't continue saying any more words. With a move of his body, he transformed into a glowing shadow, shooting across the forest sea below, heading right towards the incomparably gigantic spiritual array present on the mountain peak. As he neared the mountain peak, Mu Chen was able to sense the boundless spiritual energy fluctuations radiating from within the spiritual array. Instantly, he could not help slightly narrowing his eyes. The spiritual array before his eyes seemed to be even more tyrannical than the lesser thousand-sword spiritual array that he possessed. God knows exactly how this Xiao Huang had managed to chance upon such an array formation. Whoosh! Although such thoughts appeared in his heart, Mu Chen didn't show too much hesitation in his actions. Taking a step forward, he rushed straight towards the gigantic spiritual array under the attentive gazes of everyone present in the surroundings. Upon rushing into the gigantic spiritual array, a billowing fog instantly appeared before Mu Chen's eyes. This fog seemed to be formed by spiritual energy, making it impossible to be blown away. Furthermore, it had a strong effect of hampering one's senses, causing people to be incapable of identifying the location and direction they were at. As he entered the spiritual array, Mu Chen immediately came to a halt, not making any reckless or hot-headed rushes within here. Being a spiritual array master, he knew that after entering a spiritual array, the ultimate taboo would be to become reckless and impulsive. Only by maintaining one's composure would one be able to find the chance needed to break the array. Furthermore, this array seemed to not be a spiritual array that would launch a direct offensive, but more like a trapping array. This so-called trapping array prioritized trapping and besiegement as its core. Naturally, this didn't mean that it was easy to deal with an offensive spiritual array. On the contrary, it would cause an even bigger headache for people, as wanting to extricate oneself after being trapped in such a spiritual array would truly require one to expend an extremely gigantic amount of effort. Once one's spiritual energy was consumed before one could break the spiritual array, one would truly become a fish on someone's dinner plate. From the outside of the gigantic spiritual array, everyone was able to see Mu Chen not moving an inch as he stood within, causing doubts to appear in quite a few people. Nevertheless, while doubt and suspicion rose within the hearts of the onlookers, a faint wrinkle appeared on the forehead of Xiao Huang. This Mu Chen has indeed quite some attainments in the aspect of spiritual arrays. Nevertheless, he wasn't worried about that, as he was extremely confident towards his own attainments in the aspect of spiritual arrays. He did not believe that Mu Chen would be able to exceed him in this aspect. Ha ha! This spiritual array of mine is called the Heaven-Binding Spiritual Array, Captain Mu Chen. This array's forte isn't in its offensive capabilities. However, the people that have entered it would become trapped akin to sinking into a quagmire, forever being unable to extricate themselves, all till their spiritual energy is totally consumed. If Captain Mu Chen's unable to break the array, you just have to say the word and hand the item to me, and I'll release all of you. Xiao Huang's voice reverberated across the entire region, ringing into the spiritual array and entering Mu Chen's ears. Giving no care towards Xiao Huang, Mu Chen raised his head to look towards the bright and resplendent spiritual array around him. Upon entering its interior, he could feel as if his body had become heavy, as if a mountain range was pressing down on his body. Furthermore, he could also sense an increase in loss of the spiritual energy present within his body. Heaven-binding spiritual array, truly a bold claim. As Mu Chen muttered to himself, he proceeded to stride forward, taking step after step towards the depth of the spiritual array. In the outside world, everyone's gaze was tightly locked on the figure of Mu Chen. Seeing this, a faint smile appeared on Xiao Huang's face. The deeper Mu Chen moves within his spiritual array, the stronger the binding was on his body, while the loss of spiritual energy would become even greater. Furthermore, the spiritual array arranged by him wasn't that simple as what Mu Chen had thought. Wanting to break my spiritual array? I'm afraid that you're too naive, muttered Xiao Huang. Tightly locking his eyes on Mu Chen as he strode forward, a chilling smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Under the attentive gazes of everyone, Mu Chen took approximately a few hundred steps forward, before coming to an abrupt halt. Looking at the complicated spiritual array covered in glowing patterns all around him, his eyes slightly narrowed. Relying on his attainments in spiritual arrays, he could faintly discern that the array patterns present in this location of the spiritual array seemed to be somewhat different from the rest. Having locked his gaze right onto Mu Chen, Xiao Huang's gaze slightly contracted upon seeing Mu Chen take an abrupt halt in his stride. Looking at the array patterns sparkling with radiance that were all around him, Mu Chen's gaze slightly sparkled, before suddenly taking a seat down. Slowly closing his eyes, his mind started to slowly calm down, with any commotion in the outside world being isolated from him at this very moment. Within the depths of his inner mind, a mysterious eye seemed to start to quietly open up. This was his heart's eye. As his heart's eye sprung open, although Mu Chen had yet to open his fleshly eyes, the surrounding environment had already been imprinted in his heart. Furthermore, everything appeared even more transparent, with his gaze completely penetrating through the voluminous spiritual fog present around him. One after another, the complicated array patterns were absorbed by his heart's eye, before being slowly understood and deciphered by him. Under the activation of his heart's eye, Mu Chen was finally able to discover the differences present at this place. So it turned out that there were two offensive spiritual arrays concealed right before him. Although these two spiritual arrays weren't as strong as the heaven-binding spiritual array, they would absolutely cause serious injuries to him if he was unable to put up his defenses in time. This Xiao Huang's truly crafty to actually hide spiritual arrays within a spiritual array. Spiritual arrays within a spiritual array, huh? A sneer rang within Mu Chen's heart before springing his eyes open. Standing up, he took a step forward. Having turned cold due to Mu Chen's sudden stop, upon seeing the former take a step forward, a shade of happiness filled with chilling intent instantly flashed across Xiao Huang's face. Bang! Suddenly, spiritual light sparkled within the spiritual array, before two spiritual arrays surfaced quietly from within the spiritual fog. Being concealed by the spiritual fog, those two spiritual arrays were impossible to be detected by Mu Chen, yet everyone present outside were able to clearly spot them, causing their faces to instantly change. Clearly, all of them understood how crafty and vicious this hidden move of Xiao Huang was. Naturally, wanting to arrange such an array within an array would require an extremely strong level of control. This caused quite a few people to feel astonished by the attainment Xiao Huang had in the aspect of spiritual arrays. Bang! As the faces of the crowd outside slightly changed, the concealed spiritual arrays had already started to reveal themselves. As spiritual energy fluctuations converged together, in the next instant, two frightening attacks that were more than sufficient to cause serious injuries to Mu Chen had already howled. Whoosh! However, just as these two concealed spiritual arrays were about to become fully activated, suddenly, two incomparably fierce rays of spiritual energy had shot out. Like bolts of lightning, they heavily struck against the two spiritual arrays. The attack by these two rays of spiritual energy was extremely crafty, smashing right against the weakest and frailest point on the two spiritual arrays. Bang! Therefore, the two spiritual arrays instantly froze, before cracks started to rapidly spread and extend across them. In the end, they completely exploded apart, sending spiritual energy storms billowing out, scattering much of the spiritual fog present around them. Hua! Cries of astonishment and shock instantly rang from outside of the spiritual array, with the sneer present on Xiao Huang's face starting to slowly freeze. As they looked over, they noticed that Mu Chen had maintained a posture with his two fingers pointed out. As of now, the brilliance of spiritual energy was still sparkling fervent on his fingertips. Clearly, the incomparably fierce rays of spiritual energy was launched by him. Formidable. He had actually seen through Xiao Huang's scheme. Shock filled the hearts of quite a few people. This move by Xiao Huang was obscure and vicious. If they were to be in the shoes of Mu Chen, all of them would admit that they would absolutely be unable to evade the attacks from the two spiritual arrays. However, as of now, Mu Chen had actually took decisive action at the most crucial instant and instantly destroyed them by snatching the advantage of time. Such acute senses and method used was more than sufficient to cause shock and astonishment to appear in their hearts. From the looks of it, both Mu Chen and Xiao Huang were mutually planning against each other. However, it was clear that Mu Chen had won the earlier engagement. Under the countless astonished gazes coming from the surrounding area, Mu Chen slowly raised his head and shot a faint smile towards the direction of Xiao Huang. Your array within an array still lacking in maturity. Hearing that, Xiao Huang's face instantly turned chilly. This episode ends here. Thank you for watching.